Welcome to the Clear Path Hoops. Today we're going to be going over one of the seminal games last night for the Golden State Warriors where they played the LA Clippers, ended up losing 130 to 125. We're going to go over some of the last 5 minutes and the key plays that caused the Clippers to win. So let's get right into it. On this first play right here, you see that Wiggins and Draymond Green are up trying to double team Paul George, who at this point I believe has 4 or 5 fouls, and Ivica Zubac is doing a little pick and roll right here, trying to go towards the rim, create that 4-on-3 action that we talk about with Draymond Green. So right here, Paul George makes the nice pass to Ivica Zubac, but Draymond Green does a nice job of staying in this play. He essentially allows this to be a 4-on-4 action. Steph Curry is into the paint to make sure that it's not an easy drive and dunk, but Norman Powell's right here open by the three-point line. He's one of the best three-point shooters. I believe he actually is the best corner three-point shooter in terms of percentage this year, and he bangs that three right in. And that's a key play. Obviously, the game tied at 5 minutes and 30 seconds left. The Clippers are really going on a run, and that's a shot that the Warriors don't really want to give up. A corner three from their best three-point shooter, obviously, at this point. And the Clippers are all going crazy over that shot. In this next play right here, we have Steph Curry on offense. A dribble handoff. Draymond Green sets for Steph Curry. Harden on him. Ivica Zubac has to obviously try to come up here to contest Steph Curry at the three-point line as he comes over. Draymond Green is probably going to end up slipping into the paint, and they're probably going to have James Harden chase over. That's been their normal coverage they've been doing up to this point, and that's exactly what you see. Ivica Zubac is here to make sure he doesn't take a three until James Harden can recover, but this creates a little bit of an opening right here. To where a pass can potentially go to Draymond Green. And so Steph Curry seems like looks at Draymond Green right here, and he's able to thread that pass. This creates an uneven position for the Clippers. You see there's 3 guys on this side of the court, basically guarding only 2 people, Steph Curry and Andrew Wiggins. And so we have 3 players obviously on this side. And so you see Brandon Pajemski's pretty wide open, but they do a nice job of, at least Paul George does, of making sure that if he were to stay in front, he'd draw the charge, but also making sure that he's able to potentially deflect a pass if it were to go to Pajemski. So in this clip right here, passes it out to Kuminga, who's open because of that unbalanced floor pattern that we saw earlier. Kuminga passes it to Pods, hoping to get a corner three, it seems like. But Paul George does a good job of contesting right here. Pods is able to get into the mid-range position. Zubac has to, it seems like, split the difference. If he commits right here to Brandon Pajemski, Draymond Green's going to get an easy layup. So he decides, okay, I'm going to make sure at least he takes a longer shot outside of the paint, maybe a little bit tougher, has a greater percentage chance of missing. And so Pods just drives this floater up and gets 2 points for the Warriors, bringing them back within 1. And that's definitely a big basket from Pods, who had a great game last night as well. In this clip, we now have Paul George. He's being guarded by Andrew Wiggins. It seems like, I would call this like semi-transition. Harden's barely across the half-court line. Russell Westbrook's not really in any position that he'd like to be in. He'd probably like to be more in the paint. And Pods is kind of the only guy there as like the last line of defense. And we have 3 Warriors essentially in this area above the three-point line, which is obviously not where they'd like to be. So he kind of does this little like push-off thing. You saw Wiggins kind of go this way. Honestly, I'm a little surprised this gets called here. I feel like Jonathan Kuminga right here does a great job of making it look like, hey, I kind of got pushed here. And I think Kuminga's fact that he doesn't really, sell fouls makes it so that they end up calling it. And that's an offensive foul. It seems like Paul George thinks till the last moment that they're not going to call it, but they end up calling it. So that's it for him. And Paul George is pretty mad at the ref right here. In this next clip, the Warriors have a chance to take the lead. Steph Curry drives the ball up. Once again, the pick and roll action from Draymond Green and Steph Curry. And we have Paul George here guarding Steph Curry, it seems like, on this play instead of James Harden, which is probably smarter. James Harden's just not as good guarding, so it seems like they put him off the ball on Kuminga, which honestly is probably a mismatch the Warriors should exploit. In this play, they kind of add a little bit of a twist to what they usually do. They have Pajemski actually trying to screen Draymond's man, which is Ivica Zubac, essentially setting 2 screens in this play to try to get Steph Curry, it seems like, an open 3, or potentially get him matched up so that they have to force a switch onto Zubac. Seems like Steph Curry wanted to thread a pass because he believed, okay, they're going to have three players like Russell Westbrook, Ivica Zubac, and Paul George all leaning towards the left side of the court. So if I can put it here for Draymond and he can go on the right side of the court, there's a lot of open space here and maybe he can make something happen. And honestly, most likely, most of the time, that'd be an easy layup. He kind of struggles to get the ball. Russell Westbrook kind of hits it away from him and Zubac is able to fall on it right here. So it's really just a little bit of an unexpected pass. I wouldn't necessarily say bad, but then Draymond's able to recover it. And I mean, you guys can probably already see what's happening. We have Kuminga open right here, and we have Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, open right here. Draymond's already looking at him. He's like, okay, well, if you're wide open, I mean, I feel like I got to get you the ball. And that's an easy 3-point shot from best 3-point shooter. And so the Warriors running this action, as you see kind of in fast motion, it's just really a scrum type of play. And it's kind of amazing how he's able to kind of concentrate, able to get the shot off, and able to score in the end. In this next clip, we have Harden guarded by Draymond Green, and Harden seems to be driving towards the lane. You have Russell Westbrook in the wing position, which allows for Podziemski to kind of stunt here and kind of get a little bit closer. It seems like Russell Westbrook, though, realizes that this is happening. He's trying to move in a little bit right here as Harden makes this drive. And so Harden, I mean, he has three players right within his vicinity with pods and basically everyone in the paint. Kuminga even watching him. So it feels like Harden knows here, okay, I'm probably not going to get the ball out. So Zubac, though, is nicely positioned on Wiggins, and Wiggins definitely doesn't have the height advantage there. So Harden tries to at least like pop it up right here to Zubac, just give a little small pass, and because he knows Zubac is taller than everyone, he's hoping he can get it. And so Zubac ends up like tapping it, hopefully towards Russell Westbrook. This kind of seems like one of those scrum plays once again, but Russell Westbrook's able to get it, and he tries to shoot it. I think he's trying to draw a foul on this specific play, but nobody ends up touching him, and so Russell Westbrook just backs up. He's like, oh, okay. I mean, he's kind of lost possession anyway, and Pods is able to secure that rebound, which is really important with the small lineup that the Warriors end up playing here. In this next, we have Pods on offense. He's going to kind of deliver the inbound pass here right to Steph Curry. Once again, a Draymond screen at the top, trying to get Ivica Zubac involved in the action. Seemed like the whole goal basically the whole time. Steph Curry gets the ball. You see, this immediately creates an advantage possession because Russell Westbrook and Paul George are behind the ball. And Draymond Green and him are both going towards the basket, which is important. And then as they kind of dribble right here, Steph Curry has a couple decisions to make. But right here, he's kind of put into a tough position now because we have basically all of the Clippers kind of committing towards Steph Curry. And it's going to be a tough pass to Draymond Green. It's possible if he kind of loops it around, but that's really the only pass that he can do. So Steph Curry instead tries to get the layup. And with three people around him, Zubac is able to go for the block, blocks him on that play. And it's a really just tough possession overall. So now the Warriors get the ball in the out-of-bounds play. I feel like these are the types of plays that the Warriors really thrive at. So we have Norman Powell right here. He's basically going to be chasing Podziemski. Already, Podziemski is able to create an advantage, and it seems like Steph Curry has a nice little passing lane right here to him. And so he's able to kind of get him the ball. And Harden kind of stunts, and then he gets out of position. I feel like in this play, Kuminga or Wiggins isn't guarded just because Harden and Norman Powell have kind of committed to Podziemski. I feel like one of them should have flared out a little bit more as soon as they realized it. But in this clip right here, Podziemski's really mastered this like kind of slow-mo Euro step type motion, and he tries to do that here, realizes that, okay, all of the Clippers are basically in this small area around me. So what should I do? I should pass it to the open man, and you usually are going to see Draymond Green open when he's by the three-point line, and he's open here, so it's like an easy pass for Podziemski right here. So as he kind of stunts, he's able to get it, and Draymond Green's able to make that easy layup with nobody in the area, and really basically not being guarded because it seemed like Zubac was supposed to be guarding him, and then he just stunted towards the paint and tried to guard the paint. And so the Warriors are now up 4 with about 4 minutes left to go. You'd hope this would be a good chance for them. It seems like the Clippers have a similar situation here where they're wanting to get Draymond Green on Paul George, although I don't know if this is nearly as favorable a matchup as they think. Maybe they're just trying to run a pick and roll in general, but personally, I think that's not necessarily a favorable matchup. But it seems like they like what the Warriors are actioning with, which is essentially since Kawhi Leonard didn't even play this game because of his injury, the Warriors are basically doubling the ball handler. They're doubling Paul George every time he comes around the pick and roll. And it feels like at this point the Clippers are looking for that and looking for Paul George to kind of thread a pass to Ivica Zubac and run their offense with basically a 4-on-3 advantage, as we talked about with the Warriors that they like to run. So as Paul George kind of passes it with that loop-de-loop pass, he tries to get it right to Russell Westbrook, and Podziemski's really not in a position to contest this. He's going to kind of lob it up there, and I mean, it's really just a tough contest in general for Podziemski, and so he's able to get the ball. And Draymond Green does a nice job of kind of recovering to the paint to try and block the shot at the rim, but honestly, it's just tough to block that. You have to prevent him from getting into that space around Podziemski, and it seems like Draymond talks a little bit to Podziemski on this play about, hey, you need to guard that a little bit better next time. So once again, we have a Steph Curry. He's going to kind of give up the ball to Draymond Green. Looks like once again, he's going to do a handoff right here. Does that little handoff. You see Paul George tries to like stunt like he's going under and then ends up going over. And this time they do a much better job. Zubac's right here. He's in a position to guard Draymond Green and stop Steph Curry from the three-point line. Paul George is almost around and able to guard Steph Curry here. So they did a good job of guarding this pick and roll. Paul George just sags a little bit behind, but he's able to put a rear view contest onto Steph Curry for that mid-range jumper. He hasn't really taken that shot much this game, actually. It's like a little wrinkle I think he was hoping to add. He ends up missing that shot going a little bit long. I think that was because of the nice rear view contest by Paul George, just because he wasn't able to set his feet and wait as long as he'd like. And Powell ends up getting the rebound. The Warriors are now only up 2. We have Paul George driving by the wing position. He kicks it out to Harden. And the defense in transition here is something to really notice right here. We have 5 Warriors players kind of in the box, I would say. Nobody guarding Norman Powell, who is the best shooter from three-point land in the corners. And Harden's able to get it to Powell, and Podziemski kind of contests, but it's a late contest. It's not really that great, and Powell ends up draining this. And once again, you saw in an earlier clip, Powell draining a 3, getting the Clippers to 113. Now he drains another 3, gets them to 116. Basically, Powell's making this whole offense work for the Clippers. Besides that Russell Westbrook 2-pointer, Norman Powell seems to be really carrying the offense off of making the defense go in transition by Paul George making a nice pass and then Harden making the second pass or somebody else making the second pass. So now we have Steph Curry at the top of the key. Seems like they got Harden switched on to Steph Curry this time, and it feels like the Warriors have realized, like, hey, this is when our action actually works the best, when we have Harden and Zubac's within it, because Harden's not as good at navigating screens as Paul George is, so they run the action here with Harden in it. And so Harden tries to get around the screen. He does a pretty good job, but it seems like Steph Curry isn't as afraid as the rear view contest. It seems like Harden kind of gives up a little bit here. The space starts to continually increase between Harden and Steph Curry. I don't really like this from Harden. I think the effort level should be a little bit higher here from Harden, but this allows Steph Curry to kind of thread this pass, and I think that's an important point to kind of point out here. By closing hard as the player chasing behind, you make it so that the roller doesn't have as big of a space to thread that pass in between. Draymond doesn't have as big of a chance to get that pass there, and because Harden didn't close nearly as fast as he should, he ends up able to pass that to Draymond Green, and this is deleterious here specifically because that causes Paul George to draw his 6th foul and get ejected from the game. So after drawing that foul, Steph Curry is now able to get the ball right here. And now Paul George is completely out of the game, off the court. They don't really have to worry about him. So it seems like they go to James Harden as the primary matchup. You can tell that Steph Curry likes this matchup because instead of bringing Draymond Green or Andrew Wiggins or anybody over to screen for him, instead it seems like he's like, okay, I'm going to work in isolation. And immediately as you see this clip, Amir Coffey's coming over here to double, and this is something they weren't doing when Paul George was guarding him. And I believe this is just because they think that James Harden, it's going to be tough for him to contain. And so we also have Zubac already stunting over to the rim to dissuade a rim drive from Steph Curry, and Draymond Green kind of notices this, that he's being disrespected, and tries to get a little bit more into the paint to be more of a threat, maybe in the dunker spot. So Steph Curry right here notices that, okay, I have a lot of players diverting their attention towards me, and this might be why the Warriors need another shooter, because the attention paid to Steph Curry right here is kind of crazy. He ends up taking this step back 3, which honestly looked good when I first saw it, but ends up kind of bouncing out, and the Clippers are able to get the ball, and Andrew Wiggins ends up fouling Coffey, which is unfortunate because the Clippers were in the bonus, and so now they have 2 extra free points. And so now the Warriors are down 3 with the ball. They're going to be running an action here with Kuminga. It looks like trying to get Russ maybe on Steph, but it seems like Kuminga is fine with the Russell Westbrook matchup, and Steph Curry is perfectly fine with the James Harden matchup. They're going to run another pick and roll right here with Draymond Green coming up to the three-point line, trying to get Steph in either a 2-on-1 situation or get Steph Curry switched on to Ivica Zubac. So Harden just gets destroyed by the screen. I think he maybe didn't see it coming. So now it's basically Zubats versus the world. He has Steph and Draymond to contend with. And so Steph does a nice job of kind of doing it between the legs, but it ends up that he actually gets offensive fouled. I thought that was honestly a good screen, but it's really tough with Draymond Green. Sometimes the screens are moving screens, sometimes they're not. Don't want to really go into that whole debate right now, but definitely some element of a foul by one of them. And it feels like in these types of situations when the player falls down, the ref is forced to make a call just because of how the game works, and they don't want the game to look like one person just got wiped out. It's either an offensive or a defensive foul, and they decide to call an offensive foul in this play. And that's a huge foul for the Warriors. They're down 3 now, and the opponent has the ball. Harden, I mean, he's doing, this looks like old Houston days. A 5-out offense, essentially. Everyone kind of in the outer shell. And then we have Harden working on the three-point line. Gets by Pajemski, has a little bit of a step on him. I mean, I think in his prime, he might have more steps on him. But essentially, we have Wiggins already crashing down. Steph Curry kind of looking around, making sure that nobody's like wide open. And then we have basically everyone trying to collapse into the paint, preventing Harden from getting a drive, but also probably trying not to foul here. So James Harden does a nice job of getting it to their best offensive player right now, at least, Norman Powell. And, you know, what Norman does, he does really well. I've said maybe a couple times now, he's the best corner three-point shooter in the league. Well, this isn't exactly the corner. It's basically the extended corner, and he's able to knock that down. Huge basket. Now the Warriors are down 6 points, and that's really tough with only 2 minutes left to go. The Warriors are running an offensive possession here. Clearly they need some points. They're going to give the ball to Andrew Wiggins to run the play. It seems like they're trying to run a pick and roll for Andrew Wiggins. We have Draymond Green setting a screen onto Norman Powell, and Zubats is well behind the play. This causes Wiggins to kind of get open by the three-point line, causes interesting matchups to happen here. So Coffee is going to be guarding Wiggins, and then we have Powell guarding Steph Curry, and Draymond Green is going to get Zubats, which is not a perfect matchup and kind of creates a defense in like a scram position. Steph Curry's able to get to the three-point line. Norman Powell closes out hard, but it seems like he doesn't realize like, hey, this is like my matchup. I have to guard him here, so it's tough. And so Steph Curry's able to kind of get into the lane with a lot of freedom. He could have took a lot of different types of shots here. Seems like Draymond's trying to set the Gortat screen right here, trying to make him so that maybe he can get around, or maybe he can get around this way just to get an easy lay-in, and he won't let Zubats guard the shot. Instead, he does this crazy like jump into him and then like hook shot, which is an amazing shot. I think he thought he was going to get a foul here, but he ends up making it, and he was like, how come I didn't get the foul right here? Like, I deserve the foul. But he ends up making it, which is huge for the Warriors. Now they're only down 4. Defending on this end is probably the most important. So now we have Steph Curry got matched up with James Harden, and they obviously don't want that to happen. So they bring over Andrew Wiggins to double. And these doubles with Curry are ineffective. I would like it if Curry just immediately ran to the center of the court and then got matched up here whenever he realized that, you know, I'm going to do a switch and recover. And he's like, okay, Pajemski, you go over here and stay with Coffee. I got to go with Norman Powell. And so Harden does kind of his moves. Andrew Wiggins does a great job of staying with him. And there's only 3.3 seconds left on the shot clock. Harden puts up a heave, and he ends up not making it. The scrum for the rebound, though, is tough because Russell Westbrook, probably one of the best rebounding guards in the league, and it ends up being the Warriors bounce it out just because of his effort. So now Russ is going to kind of take the ball out of bounds, essentially, and he has the ball dribbling up. Kuminga's sitting well off of him, and it seems like Curry's kind of stunting towards the lane. Draymond Green is trying to guard Zubats, and Pajemski trying to stay in a good position to guard Powell as well. But it seems like Powell is really ready to shoot this corner three-point shot. You just kind of look at his demeanor right here. He looks really ready. And so as we play this clip a little bit, he tries to do a nice Euro step, passes it to Coffee, and now Coffee has a wide open shot. And I think what people miss about Coffee is he's above 40% three-point shooter, and he's wide open right here. And so that's butter. And that really kind of puts the Warriors away. I mean, up 124 to 117 with 123 left in the game. And that's when I kind of realized, okay, the Warriors are probably going to lose this. And kind of a display of defensive lapses on three-point shooters with the Warriors. I feel like that's kind of common, honestly, just with how little they've played together with Draymond in this full lineup, understanding that they really need to close out to the three-point line, but also a display of the Clippers' elegant three-point shooting and how they can still run an offense without Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard, with James Harden at the center and still end up winning games. If you guys like this new type of content where we review the last 5 or 6 minutes of a game, especially a close game, please let us know. Please like, comment, and give your thoughts on this game as a whole. Thank you guys for listening.